Welcome to Asian Like Me, presented by me, Dr. Sohee Jun, the podcast for the modern Asian woman redefining what it means to thrive. I've spent years navigating the complexities of culture, family expectations, and career ambitions. Here, we have real, unfiltered conversations with incredible women who are breaking barriers, charting their own paths, and owning their power. Together, we'll dive into the wins, the lessons, and the challenges we all face. And yeah, we'll laugh. We'll share stories and drop some actionable tips to help you crush it in your own way. This is your space to feel seen, heard, and inspired. Ready to rewrite the rules? Let's drop in. So, February feels like such a good month for so many reasons for me. And I'm really excited to share why February is so meaningful in so many ways. And before I do that, I want to share with you that it's probably because I am inviting in January a little bit differently. And actually, it's a little different, yet so radical. And some of the most powerful moments, I think, are when we are able to do really small, courageous acts that feel on the surface very small. Maybe people may not even notice, or it might seem insignificant, except those are the acts that, when they're aligned to something important, are the most powerful. So for me, I'm inviting in a much more softer new year in which February is what I feel symbolically and what I'm putting out there into the universe as the real start of my year. And here's why. I think so many of you will relate to this feeling that I had in December, that although December is really joyous, there are many gatherings, there are lots of occasions to celebrate, get together with friends and family that we love. Perhaps some of us overstayed with relatives. And I'm sharing that because I hear from so many of my clients that both enjoyed and felt like they overstayed with their families, which I can definitely relate to. And so December is such a mashup of, in and of themselves, very cool moments. And when we get to the end of December, there's also this, for me anyway, pressure to have it figured out, to have rested, to have had the joys, and to have met the people, and then to have everything planned out for the year ahead. And I think this is partly because of my deep entrenchment in the cycle of the corporate world, where everything does start, for the most part, calendar year starts in January, with the day that you get back in office. And because I spent so many years, and please know this isn't a judgment, it's a statement of my experience and what the big imprint of that experience has done for me, which is get me really good at, by the end of December, doing the vision boards, doing the goal setting, and putting a lot of pressure on myself to have it all figured out. When the reality is, come January, my body just wants to breathe. My energy really needs more time and a lot of more spaciousness to let the experiences of December settle, to let me take in the beauty of the moments and the occasions that I've been a part of in December, and then to softly see what feels right for the new year. That is what I'm doing. That is so radically different. That is also resonating with so many clients and people and friends that I'm sharing it with. And they're like, oh, yeah, that feels actually really good. And it is this kind of exhale that we can allow for ourselves. Like, Whew. Maybe I don't have to abide by those norms. And the question then being, what would it look like if I invited in a different year in which perhaps February is the start, at least emotionally and maybe mentally? And so it's been really cool for me personally to play with that, at least from a personal realm in which the previous version would have been like, okay, I got to get all the vision board done. I got to get all the materials, which by December, I don't know if you all do vision boards, but by December, all of the materials are gone anyway. So I'm left searching through scraps because I don't get it in advance enough to have all of the plentiful supplies. So I'm left scrambling and I piece together a vision board that is on the surface feels good and or goals that on the surface feel big and stretchy and really amazing and isn't that cool and wouldn't it be great if? And yet what I'm playing with and what I feel is so courageous in this world that is bent on a certain rhythm is to really give it a beat. My clients know that I say this quite often. Let's give it a beat. Let's see what comes up. Let's see what percolates. Let's see and feel into what feels even more true when we give it some time and give it some air. What if we courageously held still, didn't put the aggressive metrics, goals, KPIs that we're so accustomed to in our corporate or work world, and at least played with it in the personal realm, which we just let January be what it is, a deep winter, still very, very cold, still where most of us naturally, biologically, rhythmically want to go to bed by 7 p.m., which, by the way, seasonally and neurologically and physically, it's normal for us to feel that way. So I did the radical thing and pushed it aside and am playing with the edges of my comfort in letting January just be what it is and allowing February to be the month in which I reemerge, the month in which I am much more settled in the visions I hold for this year and what I would like to bring forward and bring into and achieve and all of the good stuff. I got to tell you, it's so much less pressurizing and it's such an honoring of my rhythm that I know so many of my clients have said is such a relief as well. So I invite you to really play with that. And perhaps next year you invite in the year a little bit softer, a little bit more in alignment with your energy of needing some more rest in January. And you reemerge in February much more aligned. By the way, that is my word for the year. It is to be more aligned than I have ever been. So that's why February feels so good to me. There's so many things about February that hold a lot of big milestones, and one being Lunar New Year. So I originally launched Asian Like Me in 2025 Lunar New Year because it's such a significant holiday for all of the Asian countries, with the exception of Japan, who celebrates the Western calendar. Lunar New Year is such a festive occasion in which there's an abundance of food and gatherings and a lot of lycee. So, that in the Chinese tradition is when people give each other red envelopes with different amounts of money in it, which, by the way, I don't hate on that tradition. And in full transparency, growing up, we didn't celebrate Lunar New Year, not consistently anyway. We were so, at the time, focused on integrating. And what that meant was really ensconcing ourselves and being with the American Western holidays. So my growing up memories are mostly similar to that of many American children, in which Thanksgiving ruled, and December and Christmas ruled, and 4th of July, which also happens to be one of my favorite holidays. And it wasn't until I had children that I really reintegrated myself into the amazing tradition and the festivities that come with Lunar New Year. So this year, Lunar New Year lands on February 17th, and it's the year of the horse. So, for those of you that are new to Chinese astrology, there are different animals that represent different birth years. It's the year of the horse, and my son, my littlest, is also born on that year. So, it's going to be fun to see what comes forward into fruition in his life this year. And so Lunar New Year is a tradition that once I had kids who are half Chinese and half Korean, in which both cultures have very similar ways of commemorating this holiday with lots of delicious food, a lot of family gatherings, and a lot of lycée. It was really fun to relearn, and it brought back such joy in my life that I had missed for so much of my childhood. And the best part is seeing it being lived out through my children who are experiencing it in their own way and tell me just what they notice, which I think is so beautiful. And of course, they brag about how much money they got in their lycée, which is also fun. And I'm like, hey, you can, give me some of that. We like to have fun with that. And so Lunar New Year is significant for me in many ways. The other part that is so important to me that happens in February as well is Galentines. So, for those of you that are unfamiliar with this kind of quote unquote almost a holiday, it's not officially recognized on the calendar, though I think it should be. It's the day that you celebrate your friendships, and in particular, female friendships. And for those of my friends that know me and have known me a long time, know that friendships, oh my gosh, female friendships they're my lifeline. It is the air I breathe is to celebrate female friendships. Probably not surprising, given that I am a coach who works mainly with females. And in the past 5 years, I have started this tradition that was originated by Amy Poehler from the show Parks and Recreation. So she was on a long time, really great show called Parks and Recreation, and she played a character who introduced this Galentine's thing. And so it's taken at least the US by storm. And so many of my girlfriends celebrate it with their friends or at least take that time to remember and really love on the people in their lives. And so for the past 5 years, I have brought my nearest and dearest together around different themes. And so this year, as I was taking a walk, because y'all know I love doing walks. By the way, whenever I do a walk, my ideas integrate differently and I come up with new ways of thinking, new ways of looking at things. So if you haven't tried doing just a walking thing, maybe a walking meditation or just walking out without headphones, I highly recommend it. So as I was walking, I thought, okay, well, what is a theme? Maybe vision boarding, although that didn't feel so aligned this year. And it came to me, and it's the theme of books. So I want to share with you the invitation title, which is Bevies, Bites, and Books. And to know me is to know that I just love books, probably just as much as I love female friendships and honor that ever since I was little. My mom used to say that if you didn't know where Sohi was, you can go to a quiet part of the house, and there I was reading a book. I have been a voracious reader, probably, again, not surprising given that I've written two Amazon bestsellers. I love books. I love the way that it can transport me, the way that it can get me out of my own context, which on some days may be very necessary. On other days, maybe it's just a lovely thing to experience another person's perspective, depending on the type of book. So I love books. So it felt like the most fitting theme where I bring together my girlfriends for some good drinks. That's the bevies part, some good bites, and certainly some good books. Now, here's the plot twist. You can't just bring a book. You have to bring a book that you read that you loved and be prepared to book swap when you're here, to pay it forward and to share and amplify really good books and good authors, and also to have a really deep conversation about what touched you about the book. So that is why this year that theme jumped out at me. And I'm so excited about bringing together my girlfriend. So at the time of this recording, it's not yet Galentine's. So here's the thing, if you're listening, I want your help. I have 2 books that I'm considering that I love, and I would love if you would chime in and let me know. Either get on Instagram or LinkedIn or reach out through my website, www.soheejunphd.com, and let me know which book you think I should bring to Galentine's. The first book I'm considering is by my good friend whose name is Selena Rezvani, and her book is called Quick Confidence. Be authentic, boost connections, and make bold bets on yourself. And I read this book, gosh, when I got it, must have been 2 years ago. I read it cover to cover. I love it because not only is it so accessible, it also has a way of sharing tips that I haven't seen before in other books. And by that, I mean, she shares ways to work with the mindset. And hello, my second book was on the mindset. So y'all know that I'm all about the mindset. And for any of you listening that have worked with me as your coach, you know it's all about how we frame our beliefs and how we think about situations that can either support us or can derail us. So the way that she frames this book, Quick Confidence, it's all about looking at the mindset, looking at being embodied, so using your body, and also interpersonal behaviors. So I just love how she covers these 3 aspects and in the tools that she provides on how to show up authentically, how to really bet on yourself, really trust yourself, and amplify that in every interaction that you have. So, this book is really one that I found so practical and I think could really benefit so many people who struggle, like we all do. We all struggle with confidence from time to time. And so this is a book that I'm considering for Galentine's. By the way, I'm really excited to share that I will be in conversation with Selena in a future episode of Asian Like Me. And so look out for that. It's going to drop later this year, and you won't want to miss my conversation with her. Selena is one of the most warm, smart, badass modern Asian females that you'll ever want to know. So, that's one of the books I'm considering, Quick Confidence, or this other book by a new friend of mine, and his name is John Wang. And he is a podcaster and also the founder of Mastery Academy. And his podcast, not surprising, is called Big Asian Energy. So you can look him up, and he is all about amplifying the wonderful work that Asians all around the world are doing. So his book is called Big Asian Energy, an unapologetic guide for breaking barriers to leadership and success. And what I love about this book is that it really covers the whole gamut of things like how do you increase assertiveness? He talks about this really nuanced topic of the social ledger and invisible social debt, as well as things like breaking the bamboo ceiling and building belonging, how to do that for yourself and others. And it's really interwoven with a lot of stories that I appreciate. I'm a fan of storytelling, and I do that through my books as well. So, which book do you think I should bring and gift to my girlfriends at Galentine's? Quick Confidence or Big Asian Energy, an unapologetic guide for breaking barriers to leadership and success. By the way, so before I move forward, let me know. I can't wait to hear from you on that. And by the way, not only will I be in conversation with Selena later on in the year, but I will also be doing an episode, a conversation with John Wang as well. So stay tuned for more of that. And if you're excited about any of these conversations that I'm bringing forward on Asian Like Me this year, sign up for my newsletter. That's my little nudge so that you don't miss all of the amazing conversations as well as live events that will be coming forward this year. All right. So, those are the two books I'm considering, and it feels like a good time to reintroduce you to my two books as well. Hello, we're on the topic of books. Might as well. I want to introduce you and invite you to check out my first book that was published in the thick of the pandemic, probably right around the start of it. So, it was published in 2020, and it's called Mommy Tracked: How to Take Authentic Risks and Find Success on Your Terms. And how I would summarize this book is that it is your go to guide for unearthing what you feel like is next, yet you're scared to do. And in each of the chapter, there are deep reflection questions that allow you to really get to the truth of perhaps something that you have been pushing down, maybe negating, maybe too scared to look at in your career and in your life. And I make it manageable. And I introduce tools in here that allow you to assess things like your desire to take a risk. I have a risk meter in here. I have self care topics because when we're in transition or want to make a transition or are on the path to finding what's next for us, we need to do deep self care. And I also introduced the concept of seasons and what that looks like currently for you and how to honor your season of life at work and at home, as well as this grounding of everything that you do into your core values. For those of you that have coached with me, you know that I talk a lot about values and how that informs not only the big priorities in your life, but also the day-to-day decisions. And I recently had dinner with a good friend of mine who was on the last episode of Asian Like Me, Hoy, and she said to me, "Look at someone's calendar and you'll see their values." So that was really resonant because this book is your shortcut to identifying what matters to you now and then how do you enact that. And so even though it's called Mommy Tracked, this book is really for every woman who really wants to honor their growth and take some authentic micro risks to really find the success that you're yearning for. Let's put it that way. And I have to explain the title a little bit. Mommy tracked was a term actually when I was in the corporate world. So I left corporate in 2017. And it was a term that was used way early on in my career, in my 30s, when I was just on the cusp of having babies. That was thrown around kind of nonchalantly to denote somebody that was not as promotable and not as ambitious, that if they were either considering having kids or had kids, that you knew that they were just going to do the bare minimum type of thing. And maybe they were not ready for or wanting big projects or to go up on the corporate ladder. Now, the corporate scene hopefully has changed. It's been 9 years now since I've had my own firm. And I do know through my coaching clients that there's a lot more grace and a lot more debunking this myth around being on the mommy track. So, regardless, that's why the title came about that, if you and now I have 3 kids, that if at that time you wanted to have children, you were put on this track. So this book was born out of the desire to really help women find their unique path and have the courage and the support to find it. So it's like having me as a coach in your pocket. So it's available on Amazon. If this resonates with you, I invite you to check it out. And then my latest book is called The Aligned Mindset: Secrets of High Achieving Women for Navigating Work and Life. And ooh, is this book different? Different in the most beautiful way. So, while the first book was really about my lived experience navigating corporate life and balancing really having children, young children, and what that looked like and how it oftentimes felt like it clashed with my ambitions. Wow, I feel like that was a better definition of mommy tracked. It clashed with my ambitions, being a mom and balancing it all. This second book, The Aligned Mindset, is really oh my gosh, it's a beautiful culmination of 2 years of research in which I asked some really deep questions to a lot of brilliant minds, brilliant women who allowed me to ask them these questions. Questions around how do you work through fear, which allowed me to come up with my framework for working through fear that you will see in the book. Questions like, do you think balance exists? And if so, how do you balance? And things like really important topics, like what's a challenge that keeps you up at night, as well as what was the biggest growth moment in your career, to very transformative, deep questions like, if you could do your career over, what would you do differently and why? What would you tell yourself in your early career, as well as what would you tell your future self? And the most resonant thing for me is that I feel like I'm getting loud because I'm so excited about this, is that the premise and the backdrop of this book is I'm inviting you into a dinner party. So as soon as you open the book, there is a lot of illustrative descriptors around you being invited and included into this immersive dinner party with your closest and most ambitious and wisest friends, in which we talk about these deep topics that we don't often get to and that we wish we had. And so it's consider it a book in which you have this collective wisdom of brilliant women who have gone before you or who are navigating the same path you may be now. And it's that wisdom, that just in time wisdom that you wish you had, which you now do. So that is the purpose and the mission of the second book for me, in which it's that book that I wrote where I'm like, I wish this existed for me. And it's with that in mind that I created this book. And I give all the credit to the beautiful minds and the beautiful hearts and the women that allowed me to survey them over 2 years. I went back from the first survey to kind of ask different questions about what is the tie through. And it is certainly the mindset. Not surprising. And so very early on in the book, you'll see that I present the really unhelpful mindsets that many of us get stuck in, which is what I do most of my keynotes around. What are the unhelpful mindsets and how do you work through them so that you can minimize it and be bolder? This book, I'm holding it in my hand right now, is not only an invitation for you to join us in growth and development, it is like the best friends that you wish you had on a speed dial. And that's what this book is. It covers and unpacks the most pressing challenges so that you can move forward and understand how alignment really is the key and how the mindset plays into that. So that's why, again, going back to the top of this conversation, alignment is my word. And so this book also is a bestseller on Amazon. So if any of these books, including my 2 books, resonate for you, please do check it out. And I would love for you to leave a review so that other women can find it. Woo, I feel like I need to take a breath. That was really exciting for me. I haven't talked about either of my books in any of the Asian Like Me episodes. So I'm just really excited about being able to share this with you and more of the premise behind why I wrote them. And here's a hot take. I have just finished my third book. By finished, I mean I've just written version 1 of my third book. It's so different and also similar in that it is, oh gosh, now I'm grappling with myself. Do I share what it's about or do I hold off? Okay, I'm going to hold off for now, only to say that it's still, being edited and it's being in the process of going through what books need to go through. And I will, I promise, share more with you about this third book that was an outpouring last year. So, if you've heard my previous solo episodes, you know that I was in deep burnout mode. And when I took care of myself and replenished my soul and my energy and realigned, this book was sitting right underneath the surface. And it literally only took 6 months, like not even writing every day, but like I'm talking real spurts of writing, the most flow I've ever experienced on writing. So I can't wait to share more with you about that. So don't forget to check out and let me know which book you think I should bring to Galentine's. Okay. The last thing about why February is my new January is that Everton is finally live. Okay, I do sing around the house, you can tell. Everton is my products company around whole wellness. It is the destination for women like you who want to nourish your body, who want to nourish your connection to yourself, and who want to really curate moments of deep reflection so that ultimately we can have a much more intentional and conscious life. And it was born through my love of wellness. I move my body every day. I meditate. I coach my clients around how to incorporate these whole wellness thriving strategies. And I decided it was time to bring it forward, like let it have center stage. I want to give you access to all of the tools that I use to help me thrive. And trust me when I say I'm in conversation with women about this every day. The reason why I am so committed to my wellness acts of self care and thriving is that I know what it feels like to not feel good. I've been there where I would negotiate with myself out of my habits and acts that I know are good for me. And I just, through the years, refused to do that to myself, refused to erode trust in thriving acts like meditation, like walking and moving my body every day. And that takes a lot of courage to keep up these habits because what the world wants to do is kind of break it apart. And I want to support myself and you through wellness and ensure that we all thrive because our time on this planet goes so quickly. I'm meandering a bit. All that to say, I'm so passionate about this venture, Ever 10, EVR, the word 10. And let me tell you the short story. If you haven't heard my solo episode on why I named it Ever 10, it's simply this, simply and profoundly this, that this ethos and ecosystem of Ever 10 is for the woman that is ever growing, ever evolving, ever curious. And so that's EVR. And it incorporates my children, Tyler, Emma, and Noah. So when they were little, in my deepest sleep fog, I was too lazy to say all their names. So we would say around the house 10, and they would just hear it kind of like a bat signal around the house. So wherever they were playing and doing their little toddlery things, when they heard 10, they would all three of them come pitter-pattering around the corners of the home and just be there, ready to take in whatever it is I wanted to share with my children at that time. So that is why I named my company Ever10, EVR 10. I invite you to check it out if you're at all intrigued by this and how Ever10 can support you in your thriving. Please do check it out. I invite you into this community. And trust me when I say it's a community of multi diverse women, of badass modern Asian females, but also Latinas and Black women and Southeast Asian women and women of every color under the rainbow. And it was really important to me to make sure that it was representative and also that the products are so pure, clean, elevated, and accessible to you. So, this is why February is such a big month for me, and it's my new January. So many things I want to invite you into, so many exciting, important milestones in this month. And I can't wait to hear from you on any of this. Check out the books. Do a Galentine's of your own. If I've inspired you to do a Galentine's next year, please do. Take my idea and run with it. Just promise that you'll reach out and let me know that you're doing one because I inspired you to do so. And continue to stay tuned. Asian like me, there will be more live events, and there's a live event coming this summer, and I don't want you to miss it. I'm bringing forward some really stunning guests from previous episodes where we're going to be in conversation live. We're going to learn from each other and we're really going to connect. So be ready to drop in. And that means that you have to sign up, stay in the know. And I cannot wait to bring you the next conversation of Asian like me. Until then, be well.